Today, I'll be talking on balanced diet and its component. As we all know that a healthy diet is one that helps to maintain or improve overall health. A healthy diet provides the body with essential nutrition such as fluid, adequate essential amino acids from protein, essential fatty acids, vitamins, minerals, and adequate calories. The requirement for a healthy diet can be made from a variety of plant-based and animal-based foods. A balanced diet is one that provides the body with all the essential nutrients to maintain cells, tissues, and organs as well as to function properly. A balanced diet will not be the same for everyone. Everyone is different, and often individuals will require a different amount and type of nutrients depending on the age, gender, lifestyle, illness, and the rate at which the body works. Eating a balanced diet is the key in maintaining good health and keeping the body in optimum condition. Now, we'll see the composition of a balanced diet. Nutritional requirements vary according to age, sex, physical activities, and other physiological conditions. The National Institute of Nutrition is engaged in research work on the dietary pattern of Indians and their requirement of various nutrients. The Nutrition Advisory Committee of the Indian Council of Medical Research made recommendation in 1944 for all nutrients. They were revised in 1958 and 1968. In 1980, further recommendations were made by Nutrition Advisory Committee, and the latest requirements are available now for formulating balanced diet for various groups. From a nutrition perspective, there are 6 main components of a balanced diet, which are the carbohydrate, fats, protein, vitamins, minerals, and water and roughage. A balanced diet should provide 60 to 70% of calories from carbohydrate, 20 to 25 from fats, 10 to 12 from protein, 3 from mineral and vitamins, and sufficient water. First, we'll see about carbohydrates. A balanced diet must supply enough food to the body for deriving energy. Energy is simply expressed as the capacity to do work. For basic activities like heartbeat, breathing, and excretion, energy is required. Energy is stored as carbohydrate in foods. Cereals like rice, wheat, and millets like ragi or bajra contain much carbohydrate in the form of starch. Starchy fruits like banana and roots like tapioca, potato, yam, colocasia, and sweet potatoes are rich in carbohydrate. Energy requirement of an adult, sedentary man and woman has been recommended as 2,400 kilocalorie and 1,900 kilocalorie respectively. In a balanced diet, energy from cereals should not exceed more than 75% of total requirements. Energy derived from fat or oil should not exceed 15% of the total calories, and from refined carbohydrate like sugar and jaggery, around 5% of the total calories have been recommended. Next, we'll see the proteins. A balanced diet must supply enough protein for building up tissues in various parts of our body. When some tissues get worn out or used up, protein repair and replace them. Protein requirement must be made by dietary proteins. The intake of protein should also be adequate in quality so as to provide all the essential amino acids. Usually, Protein requirement is in terms of body weight. That is, 1 gram of protein per kilogram body weight is the recommendation. Even though animal proteins are of superior quality, it is not a practical suggestion to depend on them for dietary proteins. In an Indian diet, pulses are a very important source of proteins. When nutritional scores are given to various proteins, egg has a higher score of 90%, whereas vegetables protein score only 45 to 50%. 40 to 60 grams of pulses and 150 to 250 milliliters of milk can provide enough protein in a vegetarian diet. For non-vegetarians, 20 to 30 grams of pulses and 1 egg or 30 grams of meat or fish and 100 to 150 milliliters of milk provide the protein requirement. Next, we'll see the fats. Fats are part of a group of compounds known as lipids. Fats provide the body with insulation by maintaining a constant temperature, participating in the production of hormones and absorption of vitamins, and as an important source of energy for the body. Fat-soluble vitamins are utilized only in the presence of fat. The fat in the diet must also provide the requisite quantities of essential fatty acids besides meeting other requirements of the body. The intake of fat should be recommended only after considering the visible as well as the invisible fat content of conventional diet. For males, 40 to 65 grams of fat, and for female, 20 to 25 grams of fat must be included in a balanced diet. Next is the vitamins. Vitamins are naturally occurring chemicals essential for health. While food is the main source of vitamin, a few of them are obtained by other means. Vitamin D is synthesized in the skin with the help of natural sunlight, and vitamin K and biotin are produced by microorganisms in the intestine. Vitamins are present in minute quantities in most of the foods that we eat. A balanced diet must provide adequate quantities of all the vitamins. Vitamin A and vitamin B12 that are stored in the body may be consumed only periodically, depending on the availability of food sources. A regular intake of vitamins that are not stored in the body is highly desirable. Next is the minerals. Minerals are substances originating in rocks and metal ores and are essential for health. Minerals make their way in the body by the plant-based food that we eat or by the animal-based food that have eaten plants, and to some degree by drinking water. Minerals are needed by the body in tiny amounts, and they work together to make and break body tissues in order to regulate metabolism. Last is the water. Water accounts for approximately 80% of the human body. It is involved in temperature control and as facilitator for chemical reactions in the organism. To maintain adequate level of hydration, the body sweats, excreting water and salts through the pores. For this reason, it is extremely important that the body gets plenty of fluids. As we know that the components of a balanced diet greatly differ according to age, sex, physical activity, economic status, and physiological status. That is, during pregnancy, lactation, etc. So, a balanced diet must provide adequate quantities of tissue building, energy yielding, and protective foods during the periods of growth. Extra nutrients are needed by children, especially when their growth velocity is remarkably high, as occurs during infancy and pre-adolescence. Extra nutrients are also needed by women in pregnancy and lactation. The excess allowance of nutrients must be in proportion to their increased physiological requirement. In old age, when physiological demands are reduced, the nutritional content of the diet should be reduced proportionately. The dietary pattern varies widely in different parts of the world. It is generally developed around the kinds of food produced, depending upon the climatic condition of the region, economic capacity, religion, custom, taboos, tastes, and habit of the people. An example of a balanced diet for Indian consumer proposed by Indian Council of Medical Research is presented in this table. The requirement of cereals for adult man is 460 gram for sedentary, 520 gram for moderate worker, and 670 for heavy worker. For adult women, it requires 410 grams in sedentary, 440 grams in moderate, and 575 grams in heavy worker. In children 1 to 3 years, 175 grams of pulses is required, and in children 4 to 6 years, 270 grams of cereals is required. In boys 10 to 12 years, 420 grams of cereals, and in girls 10 to 12 years, 350 grams of cereals are required. And for pulses, 40 grams, 50 grams, and 60 grams are respectively required for sedentary, moderate, and heavy worker. And in adult women, 40, 45, and 50 grams of pulses are required for sedentary, moderate, and heavy worker respectively. In children 1 to 3 years and 1 to 6 years, 35 grams of pulses, and for boys 10 to 12 years and girls 10 to 12 years, 45 grams of pulses are required. Leafy vegetables required in adult men are 40 grams in sedentary worker, 40 grams in moderate worker, and 40 grams in heavy worker. The requirement of green leafy vegetables in adult women is 100 grams for sedentary and moderate worker and 50 grams for heavy workers. In children 1 to 3 years, 40 grams of green leafy vegetables is required. 4 to 6 years, 50 grams required. And in boys and girls between 10 to 12 years, 50 grams of green leafy vegetables is required. Other vegetables required for adult men are in sedentary worker 60 grams, in moderate worker 70 grams, in heavy worker 80 grams. In adult women, 40 grams is required both for sedentary and moderate worker and 100 grams for heavy worker. In children 1 to 3 years, 20 grams of other vegetables is required, while 4 to 6 years it required 30 grams. In boys and girls around 10 to 12 years, 50 grams of other vegetables is required. Roots and tubers requirement in adult men is 50 grams in sedentary, 60 grams in moderate worker, 80 grams in heavy worker. In adult women, 50 grams both in sedentary and moderate worker and 60 grams in heavy worker. Children between 1 to 3 years require 10 grams and children between 4 to 6 years require 20 grams. For boys and girls between 10 to 12 years, 30 grams of tubers and roots are required. Milk requirement 150 milliliter for adult men in sedentary worker, 200 milliliter in moderate worker, 250 milliliter in heavy worker. And in adult women, 100 milliliter in sedentary worker, 150 milliliter in moderate worker, and 200 milliliter in heavy worker. In children 1 to 3 years, 300 ml of milk is required, and in children between 4 to 6 years, 250. In boys and girls between 10 to 12 years, 250 milliliters of milk is required. In oils and fats, adult men require 40 grams, moderate worker required 45 grams, and heavy worker required 55 grams. In adult women, sedentary worker required 20 grams, moderate worker required 25 grams, and heavy worker required 40 grams. Oils and fat for children between 1 to 3 years is 15 grams and 4 to 6 years is 25 grams. Boys between 10 to years require 40 gram, while girls 10 to 12 years require 35 gram. Sugar or jaggery requirement in adult men are in sedentary 30 gram, moderate work 35 gram, and heavy work 55 gram. In adult women, it requires 20 gram in both sedentary and moderate worker and 40 grams in heavy worker. In children between 1 to 3 years, 30 gram, and in children between 4 to 6 years, it requires 40 grams. Boys and girls between 10 to 12 years require 45 grams of sugar and jaggery. The diet consumed by a large majority of the population in India are imbalanced and are deficient in protein, certain vitamins and minerals. The main cause for this are: first is the high cost of protein and rich productive food. Second, low purchasing power of the people. And lastly, the illiteracy and lack of nutrition knowledge. Based on the recommended dietary allowance, balanced diet for various groups of individuals were first suggested by Nutritional Advisory Committee of Indian Council of Medical Research in 1968 and later updated by 1979 Committee of Indian Council of Medical Research. A new set of balanced diet based on the latest recommended dietary allowance has been formulated in 1984 and are still in practice. In involving this, diet cost factor has been given priority. First, we'll see balanced diet at high cost. Such diet will include liberal amount of costly food such as milk, eggs, meat, fish, and fruits, and moderate quantities of cereals, pulses, nuts, and fat. Balanced diet at moderate cost. This diet will include moderate amount of milk, eggs, meat, fish, fruits, and fats, and liberal amount of cereals, pulses, nuts, and green leafy vegetables. Balanced diet at low cost. This diet will include amount of milk, egg, meat, fish, and fats, and liberal amount of cereal, pulses, nuts, and green leafy vegetables. According to the Nutritional Education Guide, that is the Food Guide Pyramid, emphasizes food from the 5 major food groups shown in the lower 3 sections of the pyramid. Each of these food groups provides some, but not all of the nutrients required. Foods in one group can't replace those in another. None of these major groups is more important than another. Thus, for a good health, one needs them all. So, a balanced diet must include calories allowance, which can be plus 50, while for all other nutrients, minimum recommended dietary allowance must be made. Next, energy from cereals should be more than 75%. It should include 2 cereals in 1 meal, example, rice and wheat. It should improve protein quality. The ratio of cereals protein to pulse protein should be 4:1. 2 to 3 servings of pulses should be taken a day. It should include at least 1 medium-sized fruit. The fruit can be given raw without much cooking. Next is 5 servings of fruits and vegetables should be included in a day. The diet should include minimum, that is 100 ml milk per day. Foods rich in fiber should be included. 1/3 of the nutritional requirements, at least calorie and protein, should be made by lunch or dinner. Now, as we come to the conclusion, I will conclude the talk by saying that eating a healthy, balanced diet plays a vital role in maintaining a healthy body. The most important of all is to have the right balance of the 6 main components of a diet, which are the carbohydrate, fats, protein, vitamins, minerals, and water. A balanced diet should provide 60 to 70% of calories from carbohydrate, 20 to 25% from fats, 10 to 12% from protein, 3% from minerals and vitamins, and sufficient water. No single food is the base source of all nutrients, and so eating a variety of foods increases the probability of obtaining sufficient essential nutrients. Research has helped recognize that foods we choose to eat can influence how we feel, our ability to concentrate, our resistance to infections, and the risk of developing disease. A balanced diet is thus needed not only to maintain good health, but to promote a better quality of life from birth to old age. Lastly, I would like to end the session with this sentence, that is, we should eat sparingly, eat moderately, eat liberally, eat adequately with a regular exercise, which are the guidelines for foundation to nutrition and health.